Okay, well, good Thursday morning, Jet fans. It is January 9th, 2020, 11:29 a.m. We are about 50 something hours away from the divisional round of the playoffs. Some NFL news this week with coaching, and a look back to 10 years ago today on a great postseason victory by our Jets. But first, let's start off locally. Today, Joe Judge, wide receiver, special teams coach for the New England Patriots, will be named head coach of the New York Giants. There'll be a press conference about 2 p.m. Um, I got to say, this came out of left field. I didn't realize he was on the Giants' um, radar. I know that there was a lot of speculation that Matt Rule would be here. Mike McCarthy, as I stated earlier this week, is in Dallas. Um, and the Browns are still looking for a coach. So Joe Judge comes to the Giants. There was a lot of outcry by Giant fans on this pick by the ownership and by Gettleman, the GM. Um, I didn't know his name until he was reported to be given the job. I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Excuse me. So we will find out today, just in his first press conference, how he handles himself um, and handles New York media. Now, he was in New England. He has a few rings with New England. He, of course, is part of the offense with Tom Brady, part of the special teams. Um, and, you get a lot of feedback. If I'm the Giants, if I'm the Jets, I want somebody to come in here. I don't want to think outside the box anymore. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I don't want a coordinator that's going to bring me lightning in a bottle. I want somebody who is groomed, somebody who has coached in the big game as a head coach, and somebody who has dealt with ownership, team, GM, and media. But this will be the third coach since Tom Coughlin that the Giants brought in to not really have a head coaching experience. Um, you had Kilbride, I believe it was. I'm sorry, McAdoo, Sherma, and now Judge Joe. I'm watching NFL Network in the background, and Tom Brady is all over it. But we'll get to that in the next segment. But right now, New York Giant fans, New York media is anxiously awaiting Joe Judge's press conference. That's about 2.5 hours away. Um, and if anything really is newsworthy, I will do a video regarding that. Um, Going to the Panthers, Matt Rule, who came out of college, who was a prospect with the Jets last year and stated he wanted to pick his own team or his own coaching staff, was not given that ability, so he turned down the Jet job. Was offered tremendous amount of money. It's somewhere in I think $60 million range um, to coach the Panthers. Um, the rumor was after he was offered this, he called the Giants and said, this is what I was offered. You want to match it? To give him a fair shake. Those reports I heard were incorrect. The actual report was the Giants were contacted by his agent and said the Panthers were willing to offer such amount. He wanted to give the Giants a chance to, at least not match or maybe give a comparable offer. But the Giants said they weren't looking at in that direction for competition to a head coach. Um, so speaking of Tom Brady, yesterday Tom Brady posted an Instagram um, posting thanking everybody on the team, everybody in New England, all his supporters, everybody who works at Gillette Stadium, going on and on and on and on. How you always want to win. You want the last game of the season to be a win, and sometimes it doesn't happen. And basically, at the end, made it known he's not going anywhere. As far as retirement. He wants to play. He has stated earlier in the week he wanted to play to his 45. He is now 43, so he has about 2 years left, two more seasons. The thing is, he does not have a contract with the Patriots. Does Bill Belichick give him big bucks? Does he take a pay cut to play? Does Robert Kraft tell Bill Belichick he's going to play for you regardless? or does Tom Brady go someplace else? And as a Jet fan in the AFC East, you almost dream about him going someplace else. Well, he's not coming to the Jets, obviously. Not going to Buffalo. I can't see him going to Miami. So he's out of the AFC East if he leaves the Patriots. Um, there are a few places where he's said to be going. Rumor is he's a Los Angeles, he's a California guy, San Diego Chargers. He'll go there with I forgot. I think it's Lynn is the coach, and maybe Josh McDaniels goes there as an OC, and he moves there to San Diego. He's a California, you know, background. The other one was Dallas, where Jerry Jones pays him a ton of money to go there for 1 or 2 seasons. Basically, give Jerry Jones a championship before possibly Jerry Jones hands the reins totally over to the rest of ownership. I believe it's his son. Um, or, I'm looking now at NFL Network, and one of the commentators said something like Indianapolis. Frank Reich is the head coach. He has a nice little nucleus there. Um, and is that a possibility? As far as I can see, I don't think he will go anyplace. Um, the only way I think he does go to another place is if he's out of the AFC East and possibly out of the AFC altogether. I don't think he would want to rival New England or Bob Kraft or even Belichick. I don't know the kind of relationship him and Belichick have, but I don't see him doing that. Um, it's and they're on two different levels. But Jason Taylor coming from Miami after he badmouthed the Jets, after he badmouthed Fireman Ed, and there was a feud and all that, and he came to Miami to get that championship under Rex and came close in the 2010-11 season. And he had a safety in that AFC Championship game. But like I said, I don't think Brady's going to go anywhere. It would be a huge, huge surprise if he stays in the AFC East. If he does go to the NFC, I don't think it'd be that big of a surprise. It won't be that big of a hit. So we have divisional playoffs this week. We have Houston at KC, Tennessee at Buffalo. Those are the AFC matchups. Seattle at Green Bay, Minnesota and San Francisco. All the home teams are favorite. I'll tell you one thing right off the bat. I do not see Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill beating Baltimore. Excuse me. I don't think they could put up enough points to beat Baltimore. Even though their defense may keep Baltimore off the field somewhat, I think when Baltimore's on the field, they'll have no empty drives. And when I call about no empty drives, no empty possessions, every time they have a possession, they'll put points on the board. Field goal, touchdown, extra point, 2-point conversion. And on defense, you may get that safety or that pick for an interception touchdown. So I see Baltimore advancing to the AFC Championship game. Houston, KC. KC can be beat at home. Andy Reid has had a history of having great teams, good teams in the playoffs, make some questionable calls, play calling, and results, and wind up losing a game. Now, last year, they basically had that AFC Championship game wrapped up in versus New England, and you had the penalties, and you had the just the breakdown at the end. I will say I think Kansas City wins, but I would not be surprised if Houston squeaks one out. I'm talking like 21-20, 20-17, something like that. So I'm going to say KC, Baltimore in the AFC Championship game, but don't be surprised if it's Houston at Baltimore AFC Championship game. NFC, Seattle at Green Bay. Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, new head coach, Lambeau, postseason. It's going to be cold. I don't think it's going to be frigid, but it will be cold. And I think Seattle stays in this game. Aaron Rodgers does have the knack for pulling something out, late. But he did have some subpar games this year. I'm going to go with an upset. Seattle beats Green Bay at Green Bay. Let's not forget, the Giants beat Green Bay at Green Bay in the playoffs twice. Once in the championship game, one in the divisional round, I believe. And both of those years, the Giants went on to win the Super Bowl. So Seattle goes to the NFC Championship game. Minnesota at San Fran. I am not a big Minnesota fan. I am not a Kirk Cousins fan. I think they'll keep this game close. Um, but I think San Francisco is just on a roll. Um, I think they play very well at home. They lost that close game to Baltimore. I guess it was November and December. I think they're too much for Minnesota. Minnesota, I will give them credit. They not dominated, but they were actually the stronghold the better team in New Orleans. But I think San Francisco, Minnesota met their match here. And I don't like Kirk Cousins on the road. I don't like it. So my picks this week: Houston or KC. It's a toss up. But KC is where I'm leaning towards. Um, Baltimore definite. I think Seattle win an upset, and I think San Fran wins. So it'll be Seattle at San Fran, and Baltimore hosting either Houston or KC next week on championship weekend. Um, and since there's really no Jet news, I'm going through Twitter just looking at anything that's being posted. And Bilal Powell was posting things today about how grateful he is in his life, and we're hoping Bilal can come back for another year. But 10 years ago today, 1/9/2010, the Jets went into Cincinnati with their first playoff game um, since um, 2006 when they were under Eric Mangini. Um, and they went in with Rex Ryan as rookie head coach, brash talking Rex Ryan. Mark Sanchez, I believe, was the fourth or sixth pick overall. Rookie, had an up and down season. And they went into Cincinnati. They beat Cincinnati the Sunday prior to close out Meadowlands Giant Stadium on a Sunday night game. They blew them out. The Bengals sat most of their starting offense after the first half. But Darrelle Revis basically shut down Chad Ochocinco, had a tremendous interception in this game. Dustin Keller had a great touchdown down the sidelines where he fought to get in those last few yards. And when I think of this win, this 24-14 win, the one thing I remember which turned the game in my eyes, Sanchez took a snap and he faked a pitch to his right and tossed it to his left. And Sean Green took it in stride, down the sidelines, touchdown. Sean Green had 135 yards on 21 carries. I believe he had one touchdown. Keller had a touchdown, and I want to say Thomas Jones had a touchdown on the ground late in that game. Sanchez had 139.4 QBR. He spread the ball around. The Jet defense was all over Carson Palmer. Um, and in a game where, Cincinnati under Marvin Lewis was favorite. They were home. They won their division. Chad Ochocinco. Um, the Jets with Rex Ryan. They at that point, I think, really took the reins under Rex. Through that year, Rex was brash. His first press conference, he mentioned going to the White House to meet the president. He mentioned Belichick's rings. A few weeks earlier, he mentioned, prior to this game, that they're probably out of the playoffs when they lost to Atlanta on a last-second touchdown by, I believe it was Tony Gonzalez. But he kept going, ground and pound. He let them believe what they wanted to believe, and they believed in Rex's vision, Rex's statement, Rex's culture, and they went in there and they stunned the Bengals on that day. And it was funny because I think in the post game you see Rex with the game ball with Sanchez, and he says headlines tomorrow are going to be 3 home teams win and the effing Jets, or the fucking Jets. And that's what happened. The 3 home teams won that day, that weekend, and the Jets went on to win also on that Saturday evening game. One more thing with Joe Douglas. I'm sorry, not Joe Douglas. Joe Judge going to the Giants. Carson Palmer, speaking of Carson Palmer, was on with Boomer and Gio yesterday, and he said that he prefers coordinators, special teams coordinators, to become head coaches more than offensive and defensive coordinators. And he said the reason why is a few things. The first thing is special team coaches everybody on the team. Anybody can play special teams. Obviously, you're not going to have your quarterback in there, but basically anybody can play special teams. Second thing is special teams coordinator is always making different decisions. He's looking at the time of possession. He's looking at the time on the clock. He's looking at the score. He's looking at field position. Do you kick? Do you go for it? Do you go for a field goal? Um, and then he said also, they have the pulse on all sides of the ball, whereas defense coordinator is really all defense. Offense coordinator is really all offense. Um, when you become a head coach, you're doing time management. You're calling timeouts. You try to figure out next things. Where a special teams player or coach, even a player, goes through the ranks. They learn. It's almost like being an apprentice. You go through every level of that organization until you get to be a specialist. Whether it's an offensive specialist, defensive specialist, a special teams specialist could be a tight end and then play on kick or punt or field goal. So that was his take on it. I don't know what's going to happen with Joe Judge. Does he bring that New England culture here? I don't know. As successful as Tom Coughlin was when he came here, he tried to bring that Parcells-esque and even Belichick-esque culture, and it didn't work until his players, his leader, sat down with him and said, "Listen, you got to treat us this way. You got to treat us like men." And finally, they got to the big game. They got to the big game twice. Mangini came here and right away was don't talk of playoffs. Won't say that word, and they made it that first year. But that got played out. He did the same thing in Cleveland, and very few people under Belichick have been successful. Belichick culture is Belichick culture. Not many could duplicate that. So again, if anything happens, anything breaks during the week, I will get another video out. But this is going to be it for the rest of the week. Enjoy your divisional playoffs. I guess those football pools, those Super Bowl pools are going around now. Get your boxes. And that's it. Check us out, www.nyjetstories.com. That's www.nyjetstories.com. On Facebook, NYJet Stories is our Facebook page. On Twitter, at NYJet Stories is our Twitter handle. And, of course, on YouTube here, our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is Alex Pozziali, NYJet Stories. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And let's see how this unfolds. And let's see how the Joe Judge first press conference goes also.